Was did Grumpy's get into you?
Who's that, mate?
Grumpy got into the boys.
Who's Grumpy?
The pub owner.
Oh, yeah, apparently I didn't see it.
Yeah. He wasn't happy again.
Don't care.
Come on, flower pot man.
Right, this is Hollow Tree Road. It's normally a really good fun road to have a bit of a crack on. However, we've got it on fairly good authority that the police are patrolling this road particularly heavily at the moment. Now, why do I care? I've just had a run-in with them this morning. So, last weekend, wind the clock back, last weekend I decided I wanted to take the 900 Super Sport just for a little bit of a run, clean the bloody carbon out of it, charge the battery up and, you know, put a heat cycle on the motor. So I took it to, just thought I'd go for a ride into Richmond and go and visit my mate Dutchy. Well, I was coming up the main street of Richmond, and coming towards me was the local constabulary in Mitsubishi Triton utility, or pickup truck for anyone who isn't an Australian. And they turned up the same road that I was turning up. So he turned left and went up this road, and I turned right and went up this road behind him. And about 150 metres along this road, he put his indicator on and pulled over to the left, and I just rode past him and continued on my merry way to Dutchy's. Long story short, I pull up at Dutchy's, get off the bike, and the cop's right there with his lights flashing, his cherries and berries, and I was completely oblivious. I had no idea that he was even behind me because Ducati 900 Super Sport mirrors. He was a bit agitated. Now, it was New Year's Day, so chances are he was probably pissed off that he had to work the public holiday. But anyway, be that as it may, he gets out of the car and he comes marching towards me, and he says, "You realise that when I pulled over back there, I wasn't stopping, I was pulling over to let a car past?" And I said, "No, I didn't realise, because I'm not a bloody mind reader." Well, that pissed him off. But I knew that there was nothing he could do because I hadn't done anything wrong. So essentially, he felt that he needed, for whatever reason, to pull over and let another car that was coming towards him through, because there was traffic parked, or cars parked on either side of this street, and I guess he figured that it was probably a bit tight between him and this other vehicle. I don't care. I was on a 900 Super Sport. And that was another point that I made to him. I said to him, "You do realise that I'm not as wide as a Mitsubishi Triton. What's the issue here?" And that got him even more cranky. And I could tell he was agitated. He asked for my driver's licence. I gave it to him, and then he made me blow in the bag, or blow in the breath analyzer, because he wanted to see if I'd been drinking or had a hangover or legacy from the night before. Which of course I didn't. Anyway, he realised he had nothing he could get me on, and he just gave me a lecture about being more careful and more aware. And I, hang on a minute, mate. I pushed back again. I said, "I don't actually understand what you're so cranky about, because in my view I had no risk in anything that I did there." He said, "You just need to be more careful," and then he huffed off. So that was last weekend. Then this weekend, I'm riding out to Richmond again, and I'm ever conscious of these new speed camera trailers they've got. We went past one earlier today. That's a speed camera. and there's more and more of them. They're buying them hand over fist. So I figured, oh look, I'm not in a hurry, set your cruise control, just ride out there at the speed limit. So I did that, set my cruise control. Now this is a road that used to have a speed limit of 100, but they reduced it because the bloody push bike riders were crying because it's not really an appropriate road to ride a push bike on. Well, it wasn't. They've widened it a bit now and in places and put a bicycle lane, but back in the day it wasn't. And they bleated and cried about how dangerous it was, so instead of saying, well, stay the hell off it, they just said, right, then we'll lower the speed limit. So they did that, because that fixes everything, dickheads. Anyway, I'm riding out there at 80, and I caught this car in front of me. Now in a straight line, it was a Falcon station wagon. Now you can't see through or around those things very well, and you get a bit of roadkill on the road out there, so you just got to sit right back. So I sit right back, set the cruise control, and in 2 or 3 bends you catch him again, because in a straight line he'd do 80, and then as soon as it come to a bend he'd back off down to about 70. So I figured, alright, well, I'll go around him. And the next legal opportunity was a broken white line just like this, with a straight bit of road just like this. So I put my indicator on and popped down around him and went back in front, returned to my cruise control, and about 200 metres later I noticed there was a police vehicle in a driveway sitting perpendicular to the road in a Toyota Land Cruiser. I just sort of looked at him as I rode past. There was no indication that he wanted to talk to me at all. He just sat there, and there was actually a number of cars behind that had built up behind me, behind this Falcon. And of course I'd cleared the Falcon, so there was a string of cars that this police officer had to wait for before he could pull out. So about 5 kilometres up the road he catches me, and I look in the mirror and I see cherries and berries. I thought, oh, for God's sake. So I pulled over, and a young police woman exited on the passenger side, and she came up to me and said, do you know why we've pulled you over? And because they always try to bait you into guilting yourself, I just said, no, got no idea. What was the problem? And she said, oh, we just think you were going a bit quick when you overtook that vehicle back there. Do you know how fast you were going? Another bait loaded question. And I said, oh, was I? I said, I'm not sure. I said, I was actually watching the road. I wasn't looking at my speedo. I had my cruise control on, and he was slowing me up. Every time we got to a bend, he'd roll the throttle off down to between 65 and 70 kilometres an hour. So I took the first legal opportunity to clear him, as I felt he was being a hazard. She said, well, we clocked you at 95 in the 80 zone. Oh, okay, if you say so. Took my driver's license and went back to the car. And she came back and she said, now at the moment we've been instructed not to issue cautions. And that's a fact. They've widely advertised that. They've got this campaign on at the moment called Enough is Enough, where they're cracking down on the fatal 5, of which one is bloody speeding, because that's easy to police, easy to gain resources and support for. That's why they do it, because they're lazy. So anyway, I just sat there and thought, oh well, here we go. And she said, but in this particular case I'm going to do just that, because I understand how frustrating it can be, and we've decided to cut you a break. So at that point I'd already passed the attitude test, right? So I wasn't being a smart ass. I was just minding my own business, you know. I wasn't recklessly riding or anything. And after I passed them, I set the cruise control again to 80 and just sat on 80, so they knew that I wasn't tearing off down the road. So I passed all those tests, and I guess that she took pity on me, so she issued me with a caution. So what does that mean? So in Tasmania they can use their discretion to issue you a caution, and that caution is valid, I think it's for 3 years. I need to check that. It could be 2, but it's 2 or 3 years. And or might even only be 12 months. I need to check up on that. Hopefully by the time you see this video it'll be on the screen below. So the caution lasts however long the caution lasts. They send you an infringement notice, but they also attach that infringement notice. It says that this is just a caution and that you don't have to pay the fine and you don't lose any demerit points. So obviously they have the fine and how many points you would have lost. But what it means is there's no second chance. If you're caught doing anything, even if you're only doing 5k over and they decide to be dickheads and pull you up, they can fine you for it instantly. But seeing as it was a zero tolerance policy at the moment anyway, I really wasn't expecting a caution, so I guess I got out of jail that time. There won't be any second chance next time for however long the caution lasts. I think it's I thought it was 12. It was 3 years, but now I'm doubting myself. So yeah, I've had a couple of run-ins in the last couple of weeks.